Welcome back to Hot Stoxx right here on CNBC Africa. Now, Supergroup, a global logistics and supply chain management group, said its results for the year ended June were satisfactory despite a difficult trading environment. The company, which conducts business in the UK, Australia, New Zealand and numerous African countries, says improved operating efficiencies and cost containment significantly helped operating margins. Headline earnings from continuing operations shot up 114% to 339 million rand, with cash generated from operations up 18% to 1.2 billion rand.
Supergroup market cap 2.5 billion, price earnings ratio of 8, no dividend yield. Paolo, let's start with you first. We step back a bit in Supergroup. This is a stock that I think they turned down a delisting at almost 20 odd rand, completely crashed during the crisis. I think when they say the results were satisfactory, I think they're doing themselves a bit of a disservice. They really turned around a company that was probably at bankruptcy levels.
Well, it was closing doors, basically. Yeah. I think you're right. Satisfactory. I think they did pretty well actually, and you know they can get their full marks for actually stabilizing this company and putting it in a position that it can now look forward to a future with growth. That's questionable how they do that, but where they've got
2 years ago they had no future.
Yeah, 2 years. So where they've got to, I think you'll give that management team full marks actually.
Would you agree with that, Tshepo? Full marks for Supergroup?
Absolutely. Considering where they come from, I think what's helped them historically has been a very supportive shareholder. I'm not going to mention the shareholder.
Who didn't want to take the offer at, what is it, 1850 or something?
And coupled with a very strong shareholder when they needed one, is a management team that's managed to turn around this business. So I'd agree. I think a very good set of numbers actually. When you look at most of the lines, a very good set of numbers.
Would you say the fact that they have Alan Gray as backers is what gave them their edge a few years ago when we did think it was falling apart?
I think it was important at the time to have a backer who'll come in with the several rights issues and actually...
And massive rights issues.
Massive rights issues.
A couple of billion worth.
I think it was crucial for the company. The turnaround, I don't think, is because of this big backer. I think the turnaround's been due to management, but it was crucial at the time to have a...
Paolo, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd go with that. Look, at that time they needed a shareholder that was going to believe in them. But the point is, I think on all fronts, you know, they've managed to generate the cash, they've got the gearing down, the operational efficiencies are improved. So by and large, they've done well. Look, to some degree, the market's come and helped them as well. You know, vehicle retail sales have picked up, and so that's assisted them. But it's pretty much broad-based, worked in their favour. I think they're in a position now that, okay, we're on the starting mark now, and where to from here? That becomes the next question.
You mentioned vehicle, their dealerships as they call it. The revenue's 40% of it, up 18%, operating profit up 53%, only 10% of total profit, of course, very, very small margins. I was frankly surprised, even at 10%, I hadn't realized that dealership selling vehicles was just so important to them.
Yeah, well, it is, and it's especially at the growth rate that it's growing, it adds quite a bit to the bottom line, so it's quite important. But you've seen that with their competitors as well, growing very strongly in that. The risk, of course, is that's probably going to slow down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's one of those. So, the one risk I did pull out, and I think we've talked about this before around other stocks, goodwill, 1.4 billion. Yeah. I just look at goodwill and say one day that has to leave. And frankly, 1.4 billion is a big, that has to leave.
No, that's a good point. I think, again, you're looking at a company that's gone through certain stages. That has to leave probably at some stage, I'd agree. I think what's also encouraging about the rest of the financials is that the leverage is actually coming down as they've been able to generate all this cash. I think a key concern a year ago would have been the elevated levels of leverage.
Yeah, gearing was 54, now it's 27. Yeah, that's a big improvement.
A very good improvement. Cash generation, very good.
I could almost say lazy balance sheet, 27 times gearing, billion rand cash. I'm not going to accuse them of that because that would be really rough. But so, Tshepo, for you, hot or not?
Sure, lukewarm. I think in the sector we prefer value. Value logistics, and in the general industrial transportation, I think you can throw in Grindrod in there that we also prefer.
But in hindsight, Paolo, would you say what actually happened to Supergroup? Was it because we saw the crash?
They were overgeared, of
just
course.
Overgeared. Is that the biggest issue?
The market slowed down, and like many
Couldn't
people who
service.
overgeared, couldn't
So
service
this
the
is why
debt.
cash is so important.
that's
So
why- and
lazy
that-
balance sheets are welcome.
Very welcome, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so hot or not for you?
From a trading type, more speculative position, quite hot from my perspective.
Okay, so all right, speculative. Let's
I
leave it at
agree.
that.
From a speculative position, if you want a bit of excitement with some risk, and I think it was up 8 or 9% on Wednesday. Oddly, the results were out yesterday. But if you want some excitement in your portfolio, this is it.
Okay, fantastic. Now, time to get into our guest hot stock picks. And Tshepo, let's start off with you, Mete.
Yes, this has got the traits of all investments that we love. Firstly, value attributes, so attractive multiples, but coupled with that very strong momentum. This is one where we were actually looking for it to pull back a bit because we wanted to buy a bit more in the last couple of weeks, but has actually managed to preserve its value. So this is, from that perspective, this is an incredible business. It's got a market cap of 2.5 billion. Of that, 230 odd million is their property. We value their property book probably closer to 700 million. So even within their property, we think management's actually being extremely conservative in terms of how they go about valuing it. You look at through the cycle earnings, they've done incredibly well. If you've bought it since inception, they've given you 13 Rand 70 back in terms of earnings on a stock price of 16.50, and coupled with that, they've given you pretty decent dividends. So this is a company that's done really, really well. Management team that's actually turned the business around from the sharp drops in 2008, 2009, as the sector slowed down. But this is one that's got all the attributes that we really love.
Okay, so for you, hot or not, Mete?
I actually opened it up and was looking at it today, but didn't dig deep enough. I broadly like Tshepo's team strategy, so I would certainly give them benefit.
It sound interesting for you as well, Paolo?
It does, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into your hot stock pick. JC Limited, and I wish you were here yesterday.
We dissed it.
Yes.
I didn't know.
We wondered where the growth was coming from, but give us your view.
Yeah.
Look, I think in the current market where we are, we're generally looking for fairly, in our minds, fairly defensive stocks. So if you look at the JSE, it's got a really strong balance sheet, it's paying the dividends, and it really has no competition, of course, so it's quite a strong moat around there.
Which was actually cited could be one of the weaknesses, in fact.
That wasn't my weakness.
It's also gone through quite a extensive capex expenditure and so forth. So it starts with a clean slate from that point of view. And what it needs is volatility, and we have it, and we don't think it's going away anytime soon either. So we think the volatility, the volumes on the market will be supportive of that business, and it's well capitalized, fairly defensive in our view. And they've just upped the dividend, as you are probably aware as well.
Yes, of course. Well, it's a special dividend that we saw.
Dividend, yeah.
What about the fact that we could actually see some competitors coming into
I don't
the
really
fray?
see that. I think if anything, and they do become successful, maybe the Africa board becomes a player in time and brings it to another level. Africa is just starting.
So what if volatility goes away and everything is calm?
Yeah, well then they
Then it's
Then
not
you're in
so nice.
trouble.
But do you know a time like that?
Okay, so Simon, okay, we spoke about this yesterday. What about
the
Paolo's
volatility?
argument?
No, it absolutely is about volatility. My favourite was Anthony's, where he said it's an out-the-money option on the next bull market. Volatility is nice, but that real massive kick is going to be a huge bull
Your
market.
response to that, sir?
Yeah, we don't see the bull market anytime
I
soon.
don't see that either.
But he's right, I think so, yeah.
Tshepo, JC Limited.
I'm lukewarm on it.
Lukewarm.
So,
What
yeah.
would make it hot?
20 Rand.
There you go.
Oh, okay, so it's all valuation. All right.
It's all about price.
All about price.